Well, coming to you live from Angkasa Puri, Kuala Lumpur, I'm Muhammad Amin Carlos, and this is News at 10. Making the headlines tonight, well, Ipoh-bound helicopter reported missing near Bidor. Well, over 13,000 Yatmara trainees turn successful entrepreneurs. Well, a helicopter with just the pilot on board has been reported missing near Bidor while flying from Subang to Ipoh shortly after noon today. The Eurocopter helicopter, privately owned, took off from Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport at 11:37 a.m. and was supposed to have landed at the Sultan Azlan Shah Airport at 12:37 p.m., according to Transport Minister Dato Sri Wikasyong. Well, the search and rescue operation, meanwhile, has been called off due to nightfall and poor weather conditions and will resume at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Dato Sri Wee said the helicopter lost radio contact with the Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control Centre, or KLATCC, at 12:16 p.m. before the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAAM, reported the aircraft as missing. Met by reporters today, he said the aircraft's last known location was a forest area near Bidor.
RM Bidor telah mengaktifkan SAR atau Search and Rescue Operation untuk mencari lokasi sebenar helikopter tersebut berdasarkan kepada prosedur yang telah ditetapkan.
A search and rescue operation is underway, according to Dato Sri Wee, who was visiting the KTMB railway station in Ipoh. CAAM, in a statement, said attempts to contact the pilot were unsuccessful, with radar showing that the aircraft suffered a sharp loss of altitude. Prime Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob today said that he has yet to discuss with UMNO's top five the date for the 15th general election, or GE15. Now, although the date for GE15 is still unknown, but it is getting closer, he said, and referred to a statement by UMNO Deputy President Dato Sri Mohammed, who expected GE15 to be held before the end of the year. The UMNO's top five refers to its president, Dato Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, Deputy President, Dato Sri Muhammad Hassan, and three Vice Presidents, Dato Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, Dato Sri Madzir Khalid, and Dato Sri Ismail Sabri himself.
Kita belum bincanglah di peringkat top 5 UMNO, kita belum bincang dari segi tarikh. Dan selepas top 5 bincang, kita akan bincang dengan, saya akan bincang dengan MCA dan MIC serta komponen yang lain. Lepas itu barulah perlu juga dibawa ke kabinet, sebab di dalam perlembagaan mesti mendapat kelulusan kabinet sebelum saya menghadap Yang Pertuan Agong untuk membubarkan parlimen. Jadi prosedur itu perlu dipatuhi, cuma tak tahu bila. Tapi kalau ikutkan Tok Mak Hassan, cepatlah gayanya.
However, the Premier told BN leaders in the Bura parliamentary constituency to be ready with their election machinery and to meet with the voters to maintain the coalition's victory in Bura and the Gwai and Kemayan state seats and recapture the Triang state seat. Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said in Bura, the BN machinery should work hard not only to maintain the parliamentary and the Gwai and Kemayan state seats, but also to win back the Triang state seat from DAP. Meanwhile, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said the skill program organized by Yatmara encompasses various training institutions as options, and the Premier was told that the program had produced more than 13,000 successful entrepreneurs, with 40 of them attaining millionaire status now.
Ramai yang berminat untuk masuk ke Yatmara kerana hasil daripada Yatmara itu apabila mereka keluar, bukan saja mereka boleh bekerja tetapi boleh menjalankan perniagaan sendiri.
So far, there are 232 Giat Mara branches nationwide with various skill training offered, such as cooking and serving skills, mechanics, manufacturing, electrical service, hospitality, hairstyling, automotive technology, air conditioning and refrigeration technology. The Premier also said that 80% of the individuals who undergo training at Giat Mara found good jobs, and when he was the Rural and Regional Development Minister, there were many who were keen to join Giat Mara. On another note, Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri said he wants the Kampungku Mahir program organised by Giat Mara extended to more villages. He said the program could benefit villagers while enabling residents such as youth to acquire the necessary basic skills. Well, 60% of the nearly 100,000 applications received for the first phase of the Peranti Siswa Keluarga Malaysia program was approved through initial screening, and the devices will be distributed this month. Communications and Multimedia Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said the ministry was trying to complete the rollout of the devices under Phase 1 by this month before starting on the rollout for Phase 2 next month and completing it this November.
Sampai hampir 400,000 unit tu kita boleh buat available dalam tahun ini. Kalau ada jumlah melebihi itu, kerajaan kena buat satu ketetapan lain bermula dengan peruntukan tambahan. Perolehan juga mungkin perlu dibuat proses perolehan lagi. Jadi itu kita kira kemudian. Kita selesaikan dulu.
The minister also expressed hope to complete the distribution under phases 1 and 2 in 90 days, and this will involve the cooperation of several parties in order to cut red tape and expedite the rollout for the students to have the devices immediately. Tan Sri Anwar said the rollout of the devices must be expedited, and a distribution schedule has been prepared to coordinate with suppliers, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, due to the logistics challenges in the interior areas. He noted that the remaining 40% of the applications under Phase 1, including appeal cases, were being reviewed to ensure that only those eligible receive the aid. He said for the appeal screening process, the Student Representative Council at the respective educational institutions and school administrators have been entrusted to vet the appeals before the ministry approves the application. The Works Ministry, or KKR, is well prepared for a flood disaster following the warning notification by the Malaysian Meteorological Department, or Met Malaysia, that major floods are expected to hit several states in the peninsula this November. And Senior Works Minister Dato' Sri Fadila Yusof said based on the SOP, while KKR Disaster Operations Room, or Big Ben, at the headquarters and the districts involved would be activated immediately to monitor the flood situation regularly. Well, he said at the department and ministry levels, it is important to take care of the infrastructure system so that roads are not cut off, especially in the event of a major flood, because the ministry wants to ensure that there is a route that rescue and emergency teams can use to provide assistance.
Dan di situ nanti kita akan pantau dan apakah bentuk bantuan yang kita boleh bantu, di samping memastikan jalan-jalan yang tidak yang terkesan banjir diberi maklum balas ataupun maklumat terkini kepada pengguna jalan raya. Di samping itu kita juga akan menyediakan kenderaan dan apa sahaja bantuan yang diperlukan oleh pasukan-pasukan penyelamat.
The media recently reported that Met Malaysia has warned the country will experience continuous heavy rain from mid-November, which will lead to major floods at the end of the month. The weather is expected to have a more significant impact as it will be during the northeast monsoon period, with the risk of continuous heavy rain and large-scale flooding. Empowerment and investments are domiciliary. Community care will become part of the development of the Health White Paper. And Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said not everyone could afford private professional services to care for family members who are unwell or want to put their loved ones in a care home. Well, citing an example in the United Kingdom under the National Health Service, he said there are all sorts of domiciliary care services such as laundry and food delivery services for people facing dementia or other mental health illnesses.
Melihat bagaimana kita dapat meningkatkan peruntukan supaya social care ataupun sokongan di peringkat komuniti dapat ditingkatkan bagi keluarga yang tak mampu. Di sini kita boleh belajar amalan daripada negara-negara lain, daripada UK, Australia dan sebagainya, di mana sistem social care mereka sangat-sangat maju.
Khairi was speaking to reporters after launching the 2022 Malaysian Conference of Psychological Medicine and Clinical Practice Guidelines on Management of Dementia, or 3rd edition, and Management of Schizophrenia, for 2nd edition, in Kuala Lumpur today. He said there were more people diagnosed with dementia, which affects cognitive ability, and this condition causes a person to be unable to function normally. A committee would be set up with the Women, Family and Community Development Ministry to enhance allocations for social care at the community level for families who cannot afford to hire a nurse to care for a family member who has dementia. Well, 3 members of a family, including a 2-year-old boy, were killed when the car they were traveling in was involved in an accident with 2 other vehicles at kilometer 44.5 of Jalan Muar Segamat near Tangkak yesterday afternoon. And Tangkak Fire Station Chief Rafia Aziz today said the police received a distress call regarding an incident involving 2 black and grey Perodua Myvi cars and a Mazda car at 3:50 p.m. While she said Arish Amar Harun Rashid died at Tangkak Hospital, while his mother and grandmother, Nur Haliza Hamza, 36, and Siti Fatima Ladri, 71, were pronounced dead at the scene. In a statement, she said the victim's father, Harun Rashid Ghazali, 34, was slightly injured and taken to the Tangkak Hospital for further treatment. The crash is believed to have occurred when the victim's black Myvi car, which was heading from Tangkak towards Segamat, was hit by a grey Myvi car from the opposite direction that wanted to overtake another vehicle before it skidded and plunged into a ravine. The black Myvi car is then believed to spun and entered the opposite lane before it was rear-ended by the Mazda car. However, the driver and passenger of the grey Myvi and the driver of the Mazda car were reported to be safe. And all the victims' bodies were taken to the Tangkak Hospital mortuary for autopsy, and the case is investigated under Section 41, Subsection 1 of the Road Transport Act 1987. Still to come, extra leave proposed for employees undergoing health screening. Well, the Ministry of Health, the MOH, has proposed that employers give an additional 1-day leave for their workforce to undergo health screening. Its Minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, said the cooperation of employers in the public and private sector was important in ensuring that their employees undergo health screening. He also urged the Finance Ministry to look into drawing up a regulation for employers in this country to provide such a day's leave to their workers.
Saya ingin minta supaya bila pekerja nak buat saringan kesihatan, dia biasanya setahun ni dia buat sekali, ya. Mereka dapat cuti, majikan mereka dapat bagi cuti kepada mereka untuk melaksanakan saringan kesihatan.
He said this after officiating the Merdeka at Parliament Rimbau program held at the Kampung Sri Kendong Community Hall, Rimbau, today. Also present was Negeri Sembilan Information Department Director Zahba Abu Bakar. Well, Khairi said employers needed to take into consideration the situation faced by the employees who might not have time to undergo health screening on a weekend. At the program today, Khairi, in his speech, spoke on the people's togetherness in ensuring the country's capability of facing the challenges brought by COVID-19. Well, he said the cooperation and support of the people had pushed the country into the endemic phase of COVID-19 due to their adherence to the public health safety measures implemented. Well, rural entrepreneurs are advised to equip themselves with digital skills to face the increasingly challenging business competition. And Rural Development Minister Dato Sri Mazir Khalid said this was necessary in keeping with the changing times and digital technology as the fundamental driver towards change. Elaborating further on the matter, the minister noted that marketing products on social media alone without strategy and skills may not have an effective impact, which is why KPLB has provided many digital courses and guidance, including Desamol at KPLB platform. This is to help rural entrepreneurs improve their marketing as well as the quality and quantity of their products on starting an online business. He was met after opening the 2022 Penang Regional Development Authority or PERDA Expo or Expert in Pulau Pinang recently. On the 2022 Expert with the theme Rural Entrepreneurs, the pillar of the country's economy, Datuk Seri Mazir said it was held to promote products by rural entrepreneurs. He added that the expo drew the participation of 186 entrepreneurs with a target sales and contract acquisition of 1 million ringgit. There are currently a total of 1,365 entrepreneurs under PERDA's guidance, and 200 of them have succeeded in owning their own factory or premises to run their business. Well, on another note, Datuk Seri Mazir said his ministry will submit to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob 2 recommendations to help increase the income of smallholders under the Rubber Industry Smallholder Development Authority, RISDA. Well, he noted that they are to raise the ceiling price of scrap rubber from 2 ringgit and 50 cent per kilogram to more than 3 ringgit per kilogram and extend the monsoon relief period for rubber smallholders from 3 months to 6 months. Well, he said the ministry will submit 2 recommendations, but only one would be selected since they involve huge allocation. The minister said a cabinet committee comprising KPLB, Plantation Industry and Commodities Ministry, that's KPPK, and the Finance Ministry had been formed to identify the best recommendations for the purpose. Referring to the proposal to extend the monsoon relief period to 6 months, Datuk Seri Mazir said it would involve an additional allocation of 400 million ringgit by the government.
Yang harga shilling tadi sekarang RM2.50 di bawah kan. Kalau nak naikkan ke RM3 ke RM3.10 ke, tiap-tiap 10 sen tu kos dia 100 million. Kalau naik 50 sen maknanya akan jadi 500 juta tiap-tiap tahun. Samalah tadi 400 juta, yang ni 500 juta. So kerajaan boleh timbanglah nanti tengok yang mana yang terbaik.
UN chief blames wealthy nations for Pakistan's climate carnage. That and more in the foreign segment. Well, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said Saturday that he has never seen climate carnage on such a scale as he toured parts of Pakistan hit by floods, blaming wealthier countries for the devastation. Guterres has said he hopes his visit will galvanize support for Pakistan, which has put the provisional cost of the catastrophe of more than $30 billion, according to the government's flood relief center.
Wealthier countries are morally responsible for helping developing countries like Pakistan to recover from disasters like this and to adapt, to build resilience to climate impacts that unfortunately will be repeated in the future.
Well, Pakistan receives heavy, often destructive rains during its annual monsoon season, which is crucial for agriculture and water supplies. But downpours as intense as this year's have not been seen for decades, while rapidly melting glaciers in the north have for months heaped pressure on waterways. Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but is 8th on a list compiled by the NGO German Watch of countries most vulnerable to extreme weather caused by climate change. While Ukrainian forces kept pushing north in the Kharkiv region and advancing to the south and east of the country after the swift fall of Russia's main bastion in the northeast, Ukraine's army chief said today. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed Russia's retreat from the city of Izium in the Kharkiv province as a breakthrough in the 6-month-old war, saying this winter could bring more rapid gains of territory if Kyiv can get more powerful weapons. Well, according to Ukraine's Chief Commander General Valery Zaluzhny, the country's armed forces have regained control of more than 3,000 square kilometers since the beginning of this month. Now, the fall of Izium marked Russian forces' worst defeat since they were pushed back from the capital Kiev in March, as thousands of Russian soldiers left behind ammunition and equipment as they fled. Ukrainian officials stopped short of confirming they had recaptured Izium, but Zelensky's chief of staff, Andrei Yermak, posted a photo of troops on its outskirts and tweeted an emoji of grapes, a nod for the city's name that means raisin. Kiev-based military analyst Ole Zdanov said the gains could pave the way for a further push into Luhansk region, whose capture Russia claimed at the beginning of June. Well, Sweden began voting in legislative elections today that will either pave the way for an unprecedented right-wing government supported by the far right or a third straight mandate for the ruling Social Democrats. Opinion polls have predicted a close race with a razor-thin lead for Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson's Social Democrats and the Left Bloc, following a campaign dominated by rising gang shootings and soaring electricity prices. Now, polling stations open at 8 a.m. local time and will close at 8 p.m. with final results due around midnight. Now, the far right has leapt to second place in opinion polls behind the Social Democrats in the final weeks of the campaign, credited with around a fifth of votes. Their surge overtaking the traditional leaders of the right-wing bloc, the conservative moderates, was attributed to an election race focused on issues close to their voters, including crime, segregation and the integration of immigrants. Prime Minister Andersson hopes, however, to hang on to power with the support of the small left, centre and Green parties. The previous 2018 election resulted in a 4-month stalemate that ended with the Social Democrats forming a minority government. In addition to a looming economic crisis, Sweden is currently in a delicate process of joining NATO and is due to take over the EU presidency in the year 2023. Well, Queen Elizabeth's coffin began a 6-hour journey from her home in the Scottish Highlands to Edinburgh today as crowds lined the roads to pay tribute to a monarch in the first of a series of solemn events leading up to her funeral on 19 September. At 10 a.m., Elizabeth's oak coffin, which had been in the ballroom of Balmoral Castle, covered with the royal standard of Scotland and with a wreath of flowers on top, was placed in a hearse by 6 gamekeepers. Well, shortly afterwards, the hearse emerged from the gates of Balmoral to head towards the Scottish capital. The Queen died at her summer residence on Thursday, aged 96, after 70 years on the throne. Accompanied by the Queen's daughter, Princess Anne, the cortege will slowly make its way from the remote castle, winding through small towns and villages to Edinburgh, where the coffin will be taken to the throne room of the Palace of Holyrood House. The slow cortege is the first of a series of events leading up to the state funeral in London. Tens of thousands have gathered at royal palaces in the days since Elizabeth's death to leave flowers and to pay their respects. Well, coming up in sports, world #1 ranking awaits US Open winner. Stay with us. Well, Hien Tet Ong turned hero for Selangor FC when he netted the winning goal in their 3-2 Super League triumph over Sabah FC at the Likas Stadium last night. Well, Selangor had led 2-0 through Mukhairi Ajmal and Brendan Gan, but the feisty Sabah side hit back through Badrul Bakhtiar and Jose Mbalo before Tet Ong popped up with the winner in the 76th minute. Now, the game began with both teams evenly matched, and it took the visitors 24 minutes to open accounts through Mukhairi, whose fierce drive from outside the penalty box beat Sabah goalkeeper Khairul Fahmi Chetmat. A minute later, the Red Giants, who are coached by Muhammad Nizam Jamil, made it 2-0 when skipper Brandon finished off a short pass from Harlison Kaon. Undaunted, Dato' Ong Kim Swee's team fought back and were rewarded at the half-hour mark when Badrul scored with a beautifully taken free kick to narrow the deficit. Sabah then got the equaliser in the 40th minute when import player Mbalo scored his first goal in 7 outings for the Rhinos. The second half saw both teams going on the offensive, although it was the visitors who looked more dangerous. And so it proved to be when Tetaung beat substitute goalkeeper Damian Lim in the 76th minute after receiving a pass from Alif Haikal. While Selangor stayed in 8th spot in the Super League standings with 20 points, Sabah too remained second with 36 points. Well, the Badminton Association of Malaysia, or BAM, will fine-tune a few matches before opening the door to professional players to train at Malaysia Badminton Academy, or ABM. While BAM Secretary General Dato' Kenny Goh said a thorough study would be conducted before holding a meeting with the coaches and players concerned. Well, Dato' Kenny said BAM needed some time before they study, as they want to be sure that whatever BAM does is right from the start. Last month, BAM announced that it would be opening the door for professional players to train at ABM to benefit national players and further improve their level of play. On the 2022 Malaysian Junior International Series campaign, Kenny said he was worried about the performance of the national players, as none of them made it to the finals. On Friday, Justin Ho, the top seed of the tournament, in the men's singles event, had to withdraw himself in the semi-finals against Japan's Yudai Akimoto after experiencing body cramps. Well, all 5 categories in today's finals were dominated by Japanese players as well as a Thai pair in the mixed team event. Well, the stakes could not be higher in today's Flushing Meadows final between Spanish teenage phenomenon Carlos Alcaraz and Norwegian Casper Ruud, with the US Open trophy and the world #1 ranking awaiting the winner. While the showdown between the two breakout players of 2022 is a fitting conclusion to the year's final major, which showcased the sport's bright future as it transitions out of the era of the big three. That's Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. Well, French Open runner-up Ruud called the winner-takes-all conclusion as, quote, ideal situation, unquote, after he beat Russian Karen Khachanov in 4 sets in Friday's semi-final. The superhuman Alcaraz, who survived 3 successive 5-set marathons to arrive at the precipice of a Grand Slam glory, said his vision was coming into focus. The 19-year-old Spaniard has beaten Ruud in both of their previous meetings, including a straight sets win in the Miami Open final in April. Well, Ruud knows that he faces an uphill task in toppling the on-fire Alcaraz, who has won 4 titles this year. And that ends News at 10. Wrapping up with a reminder of our top story. Ipoh-bound helicopter reported missing near Bidor. Join us for more updates at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. Till then, I'm Muhammad Amin Carlos, and stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM.